My name is Aloyce Hepelwa. I'm a research fellow, Environment for Development Initiative. I'm also lecturing at the University of Dar es Salaam. In this video, I'm going to present on carbon markets for financing climate-smart agricultural practices. The aim of the video is to provide basic information on guiding how agricultural projects could be included into carbon market financing, which is mostly providing finance for climate change actions. In this presentation, I'll discuss three issues. One to do with the global greenhouse gas emissions, voluntary markets, and also sustainable agriculture in relation to climate-smart agricultural practices. And then I conclude in the last slide. In terms of greenhouse gas emissions, we know that, and also some reports are indicating there is increasing global greenhouse gas emissions, and mainly is on carbon dioxide, which is representing about 76%, methane gas, which is about 16%, and also nitrous oxide, which is about 60%. In terms of agricultural emissions, reports are also indicating the agricultural sector contribute about 25 to 30% of greenhouse gas emissions, and this is mainly from the agricultural activities that are taking place to do with the use of chemical fertilizers, and also use of pesticides, use of animal wastes, and also agricultural expansion in terms of land use change. However, wherever we assess the contribution of agricultural sector on greenhouse gas emissions, it is actually found that carbon dioxide is contributed by 35%, methane gas is contributed by 46%, and nitrous oxide is contributed by 78%. So it is important to note that the methane gas and also nitrous oxide are greenhouse gas emissions with higher global warming potential, and therefore, since agriculture is contributing more on these two gases, the information that we are getting here is that agricultural sector is contributing largely to climate change problem. However, the existing mechanisms that are addressing climate issues are not yet covering much on agricultural projects, therefore leaving much of environmental degradation as a result of agricultural practices not being solved. For example, we have the carbon markets, which is a tool for financing climate actions, but the coverage on these tools on the agriculture-related projects is not that much. Now, why are we discussing voluntary carbon markets? Carbon markets are one of the key tools for financing climate action, and there are two types of carbon markets: voluntary carbon markets and compliance carbon markets. But when we focus more on voluntary carbon markets, this is where companies and individuals buy carbon credits from projects that are reducing or removing greenhouse gas emissions from the atmosphere. And the participation of these agents is voluntary, and therefore that's why the name voluntary carbon markets. And in these markets, carbon credit is regarded as a commodity. And a carbon credit, one carbon credit is corresponding to 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalent. And when we analyze the data available on the markets of carbon markets globally, we see that prices and also market values of carbon credits varies across the region in the world. For example, carbon credit prices for North America is about $11.5, whereas the price of carbon credit in Africa is around $7.5, and the carbon credit price for Latin America is 6.5, and Asia is 5.7. So there is differences in prices of the carbon credit across the world. Now, combining the prices and the value, we also see that the value of carbon credits across the region varies, but again, North America is leading with about 43.7% value of carbon credits, and also Latin America 26.4%, Africa 15%, and Asia 15%. Now, given the potential of Africa being a home of vast natural resources that are relevant for carbon credits, the participation of carbon credits by Africa is still low. The same discussion of carbon credits values, when we assess by sector, it is also found that the carbon credits values for agricultural sector is quite small, which is about 1% compared to other sectors like forestry and land use, which is leading in terms of value, followed by renewable energy, industrial processes, and waste disposal. So the low value or the low percentage of agricultural projects in carbon markets, again, is an indication that agricultural emissions are not being covered by carbon credit markets, which is a source of financing climate actions. Therefore, agriculture sector has not been taken into board when we are addressing climate change problem. The analysis of carbon market worldwide is also showing a paradigm shift from nature-based projects to actually from technology-based projects towards nature-based projects, which means the trading of carbon credits in carbon markets is concentrating more on the carbon credits that are coming from the projects that are made to address climate change by using natural method. For example, for the data that we get from the African Carbon Market Initiative 2024, it is showing that in the year 2022, the percentage of carbon credits in the carbon market were a bit similar for nature-based projects and technology-based projects. The difference was only 2-4%, but the current projection is showing by the year 2030, the carbon market is going to comprise more carbon credits that are from the nature-based projects by 75%, whereas the carbon credit from the technology-based projects will be only 25%. The message that we are getting here is that when we are developing projects in agriculture that are supposed to benefit from carbon markets, we need now to orient our thinking towards nature-based projects. So in this case, in order to develop or to upscale climate-smart agricultural practices in our countries, we need projects that are improving agroforestry. We need projects that are addressing livestock. We need projects that are leading to reduction of use of chemical fertilizers. And also, we need projects that are sequestering carbon dioxide, and this is by reducing land or farming through tillage. Also, projects that are addressing sustainable water management qualifies to be in the current plan of the upscaling climate-smart agriculture. From this presentation, we are getting a message that greenhouse gas emissions are increasing, and a large percentage of greenhouse gases comprises greenhouse gases that have higher global warming potential, which is mostly generated from agricultural sector. But again, from this video, we conclude that there is lower coverage of agricultural projects into carbon credit markets, which is providing finance for climate action. In this case, we are leaving a gap of addressing climate change if agricultural sector is not covered by the mechanisms that are likely to provide the finance to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. But again, from the paradigm shift of the concentration or focus of the carbon markets, in this case, the movement of carbon markets towards nature-based solutions, it is providing a leeway to developing projects in climate-smart agriculture so that they can benefit also from carbon markets. So there is a positive way, or there is a room for benefiting from carbon markets by developing projects that are addressing climate change and that are also going to benefit from the carbon market. Thank you very much. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.